Naistiki. Let's say the translation together before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest. Offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, Narayan Rishi, the supermost being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and Srila Prabhupada, translator and commentator. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by ready service unto the pure devotees, unto the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so we're on the third chapter, first canto, third chapter, which is Krishna is the source of all incarnations. We're going to do various verses today, which I'm going to be reminded exactly which ones they are because they don't go totally in order. But anyway, we're starting with 7. That's what we know. We're starting with 7. So, okay, we'll sing that. We'll chant that one. That's all right. That's fine because we know we're starting on 7. Okay. Dvitiyam tu bhavayasya. Dvitiyam tu bhavayasya. Satalagatam mahim. Udarishan upadata. Udarishan upadata. Yagyesha shokaram vapu. Yagyesha shokaram vapu. Dvitiyam tu bhavayasya. Satalagatam mahim. Udarishyan upadata. Yagyesha sokaram vapu. Please chant. Dvitiyam tu bhavayasya. Satalagatam mahim. Dvitiyam tu Yagyesha sokaram vapu. Dvitiyam tu bhavayasya. Vasatalagatam mahim. Udarishanupadata. Yagyesha sokaram vapu. Let's go to the word for word. I'm just going to read through them all. Dvitiyam, the second, two, but, bhavaya, for the welfare, asya, of the earth, vasatala, of the lowest region, gatam, having gone, mahim, the earth, udarisham, lifting, upadata, established, yagyesha, the proprietor of this, or the supreme enjoyer, sokaram, hoggish, vapu, incarnation. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices. Who's that? Oh, okay, thanks. Okay. The supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices accepted the incarnation of a boar, the second incarnation. And for the welfare of the earth, he lifted the earth from the nether regions of the universe. Where are the nether regions of the universe? Down. Remember the name of it in Sanskrit? Masatala, the lower planetary system. There's a few planets in that area. Okay. Omagyanatimirandasya jananjana salakaya chaksu umilitam jena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So in this chapter, we're getting brief descriptions, very brief descriptions of the different incarnations of the Lord. A lot of them, not every single one, but will be further elaborated in different parts of the Bhagavatam. So we're just getting like the snippet, the overview. Okay, so first, included in your verses for yesterday was the first incarnations that were listed were the four Kumaras. Now it's going to this incarnation of the Lord, Lord Boar. And we'll see there's such a variety. There's such variety of incarnations. Previously, perhaps we hadn't thought of the Lord in these different forms, or even considered that there'd be a form of the Lord as a boar. And perhaps it might be a little incomprehensible for us in our present situation to think of how a boar can be supremely attractive and beautiful and have devotees. But he does, and he is. He is supremely attractive, even in that form of what we might not consider a particularly attractive form. Now, especially if you haven't traveled around very much, particularly India, but there's probably many other places where there's lots of pigs and hogs and boars. We just have this little conception of a boar, but when you go and you see those hoggish personalities wallowing in mud puddles and searching after fresh stool, you think various things, but mostly yuck. But the Supreme Lord in his form as a boar was not like that. But he took that form, as explained here, because the earth had fallen out of its orbit due to, that'll be explained later, the exploitation of the earth for oil and stuff and gold, and they unbalanced her. She fell into the ocean at the bottom of the universe, the Garbadak Ocean. So in order to, the Lord, being very practical as he is and supremely potent, decided, if you want to get something out of a dirty, bottomless ocean, how are you going to do that? Well, I'll be in the form of a boar. That way I can dig in the earth, in the ocean, actually, and lift the ocean. So there's a lot of pastimes, but any misconception that any misconception that we might have thinking that a boar is not so, or we're going to hear about a turtle, we're going to hear about this, we're going to hear all these different forms of the Lord. And there are devotees that are totally enamored by that form of the Lord. There's so much variety in the Lord's creation. It's not all one. We're not all the same. And Krishna appreciates that variety. That's just a simple takeaway. What's my next verse? 15. See, this is the thing, from 7 to 15. So your homework today is to read from 8 to 14, okay? Okay, so now we go to 15. 15 is talking about inundation. Okay, Chakshushamanu. Okay, so 15. Let's just go to the translation. Would someone like to read the translation, please?
Chakshushamanu, and the whole world was deep within water. The Lord accepted the form of a fish and protected by Vasvatamanu, keeping him up on a boat.
Would someone else like to read the purport? Go right ahead, quick. He's got it back there.
Shripada Sridhar Swami, the original commentator on the Bhagavatam, there is not always a devastation after the change of every Manu, and yet this inundation after the period of Chakshusha Manu took place in order to show some wonders to Satya Vrata. But Sri Jiva Goswami has given definite proofs from authoritative scriptures like Vishnu Dharmatara, Markandeya, Parana, Purana, Harivamsa, etc., that there is always a devastation after the end of each and every Manu. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti has also supported Srila Jiva Goswami, and he, Sri Chakravarti, has also quoted from Bhagavatamrita about this inundation after each Manu. Apart from this, the Lord, in order to show special favor to Satyavrata, a devotee of the Lord, in this particular period, incarnated himself.
So you need to think about that a little bit, what Prabhupada was saying there. Did you notice, what did you notice about that purport? Yes, Mr. Nate.
Some of it went over my head. Like a change in Manu is those like change from different like we're in this human and like a different humanoid change. Like what's a change in Manu?
That's another part. That's another huge discussion. It's a
I'm
good question. No,
sorry.
no, it's okay. It's a good question. Thank you for that nice question. It's a whole nother explanation of the organization, the Manus, or the organization of the universe. So that in one day of Brahma, there are 14 Manus. They rule the universe for an extended period of time. And if I was a brilliant person, I'd remember how many years. But do you remember? Okay, but even though you are more brilliant, I an incredibly long period of time, and they're in charge. They're in charge for a certain period. So there's one Manu has a tremendous long lifetime. He has certain responsibilities, and then at the end of his tenure, it changes to the next Manu who's in charge. So here in this purport, it was talking about because there was a change in Manu and this and that, and there was a devastation, but maybe there wasn't a devastation, but there was a devastation. The Lord incarnated as a fish to save Satyavrata Muni. So Manus are, like rulers of universes for long periods of times. Okay, so there was something else I'd like to point out about this purport. Did you catch it? Kind of just hinted at it a minute ago. Yes.
There's not always a devastation after Manu's reign.
Yeah. Well, that point. The point was a difference of opinion of the acharyas. That's what I'd like to bring out. There was a difference of opinion of the acharyas, and Sridhar Swami, being one of the very first commentators on the Bhagavatam, he's saying that there isn't one. He said that, right? Is not always. Jiva Goswami, who we've heard many times glorified for his brilliant philosophical understanding of everything, says yes, there is, and he quoted all these different places. But also as interesting is Srila Prabhupada's attitude. Did you catch his attitude? It was totally neutral. There wasn't any doubt on Sridhar. He didn't put the doubt on Sridhar saying, oh, he's less, he didn't doubt anything he said. He just stated it. Sridhar Swami says this, Jiva Goswami says this, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says this, and Prabhupada just goes on. He just, it's just so interesting because we're putting our faith in, we're encouraged, and it's necessary to have faith in the scriptures and have faith in those people who have realized the scriptures and are presenting the scriptures. And sometimes there's a difference of opinion, and it's usually not a big thing. That's a thing. So and another time, another point, although not exactly this particular point, but here we are in the first canto, hearing briefly about this process of creation. Second canto, we're going to hear much more detail about the process of creation. And third canto, you're going to hear it again. You're going to hear about the process of creation many times, repeatedly, because it's an important concept, and it's a foundational principle to get a glimpse of some of the Lord's potencies, and his potency in creation, and potency in how expansive the universe is, and to broaden our concept of who we are and where we are in the universe. We just have this, we're thinking that this little place and this little country and this little world is a very important place, and all the important, intelligent, handsome, beautiful people live here. Not. You know what I mean? It's huge. The creation of the Lord is huge. And so then we look up at the stars. Today was I don't know if you guys I don't know if you notice as much as I do out more in the countryside. You know, the stars in the night. Did anybody notice the stars this morning? It was a very clear morning. Lots of beautiful stars, brilliant, you know, there. There's people on all of those places. And they're all of different grades of personalities too. Anyway, so we think, and then you look at that and you think, oh yeah, I am really small. And then you hear about millions of universes beyond our sight. And then you hear of, you know, it just puts it in perspective, how we're just small, insignificant, teeny weeny little servants of the Lord in illusion. And we're fortunate enough to come into the process that is cleansing the dust, the gunk. It's more than just dust. It's like caked on cement, you know, covering our real consciousness. And, you know, it'll all come out in the wash if we stick to it. That has nothing to do with the incarnation mentioned here. Haribol. Okay, so now I go on to 19. Is that correct? That's what I meant. Okay. So we'll just go on. You're just touching that. You're just getting a glimpse of the names of the incarnations and the forms of the incarnation, and maybe a summary of their major activities. So everything will be explained in due course of time. So text number 16, would someone like to read 16?
Of the Lord, who took the 11th incarnation of the Lord, took the form of a tortoise, whose shell served as a pivot for the Mandarachala hill, which was being used as a churning rod by the theists and atheists of the universe.
Now there's something to wrap your head around for the morning meditation, right? Mandarachala hill, which is huge beyond understanding, right, is being used as a pivot. So if any of you are familiar with the story, do you know what the Mandarachala hill is resting on? What or whom? That's a hint. Whom it's resting on? Korma. And who's that? And what form is Korma in? Turtle. So we heard about fish, we heard about tortoise, we heard about a hog. Now we're hearing about a turtle incarnation. Krishna says that he incarnates in every species of life, everyone, even vegetables, because they're part of the species. Every species of life, there's an incarnation of Krishna. And why? Why is that? Yes. So we can experience his creation from that perspective. He can experience his creation. That's part of it. And there's other reasons too. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Jonathan.
Wants to attract all the different species.
That's it. That's the one I was. Yes, because he attracts, because there's personalities in all different species of life. They're persons, they're souls in all species of life. And Krishna is not working, but he's attracting, he's incarnating in all those species of life, all those varieties, to give the fallen souls a chance to become attracted to him. And still we think God is cruel. See how our consciousness has become so covered. That's why we need to open ourselves up, our mind and our hearts, to the Bhagavatam and see the message that's there. The message is that the Lord is so kind. And he's providing everything that everybody needs for a perfect, happy life in connection with the Lord, serving the Lord, connected to the Lord in service. And when we connect to the Lord in service, everything is okay, even when it appears that it's not okay. You know, it's all okay because he's the supreme controller. We're his servants. And he's actually rooting for us to make progress in spiritual life. Aside from the fact that he has a whole realm of his own personal activities that don't have anything to do with this created world. You know, there's so much going on. Okay, that was a little bit. But want to read the purport? to 16. I guess he's got it up there. Yeah, so you know it's 16.
Once both the atheist and the theist were engaged in producing nectar from the sea, so that all of them could become deathless by drinking it. At that time, the Mandarachara...
Drinking the sea or drinking what? Just checking. Okay, drinking the nectar. You know, it's easy to, not that you spaced out, but it's easy to space out. They weren't drinking the sea, they were drinking the nectar. And why were they interested in drinking the nectar? Immortal. And they both wanted that. So, yeah, it was a tough situation. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
At the time, the Mandarachara hill was used as the turning rod, and the shell of Lord Tortoise, the incarnation of Godhead, became the resting place pivot of the hill in the seawater.
The pivot of the hill in the seawater. So, okay, so this is first canto. 12th canto, it's our last canto of the Bhagavatam. 13th chapter, last chapter of the Bhagavatam. 12, 13. I'm gonna pull it up a minute. Can you pull it up faster than me? You probably can. Go ahead. Oh, but I don't know exactly what verse. It's like number 7 or something. Anyway, there's a prayer to Lord Korma. Amazing prayer. Wait till you hear it. Did you get it? Okay. Amazing prayer to Korma. So this is the last chapter of the Bhagavatam. Maharaj Parikshit's already burned up. He's got bit by the snake. His Sukadeva Goswami's already finished, obviously, the Bhagavatam. He's already finished the Bhagavatam. Sukadeva Goswami has left the arena where all the sages are there, and the sages are there. So 13, glories of the Bhagavatam. So I think it's number, no, it's not number 7. Okay, it's number 2. 13th chapter, number 2. Okay, I'm going to read it because it's so exciting. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared as Lord Korma, a tortoise, his back was being scratched by the sharp-edged stones lying on massive, whirling Mount Mandara. And this scratching made the Lord sleepy. May you all be protected by the winds caused by the Lord's breathing in this sleepy condition. Amazing, huh? Ever since that time, even up to the present day, the ocean tides have imitated the Lord's inhalation and exhalation by previously coming in and going out. Now, who says the Bhagavatam is boring? They need to read it more carefully. It's amazing. So there's this huge mountain, huge. It was so huge that all the demigods and the demons, when they were picking it up and trying to move it from one place to another, they all got crushed, kept dropping it. That story of this churning of the ocean, the Lord incarnates like hundreds of different times in many different forms. So he came again, and he lifted up the ocean, picked it up and put it on Korma. And he glanced at all the injured people with their broken bones and brought them back to health again. And then when they started to churn it, and do you remember what the churning rod was? What the rope was? Who it was? Vasuki, one of the huge snakes. And then there was a problem in there. And nothing ever goes smoothly. Have you noticed that, Shruti Sharga? Yeah. Nothing ever goes smoothly. And there's always, right from the get-go, even Lord Brahma in his creation. Sorry, I'm talking a lot, but anyway. Lord Brahma in his creation, the 4 Kumaras. He created the 4 Kumaras, and he created them for a certain purpose, to help propagate the universe, because it's the beginning of creation. So he created the 4 Kumaras. There he was, his great creation, and he says, "Okay, my sons, now it's time for you to get married and produce lots of children and stuff to fill up the universe because it's kind of empty here." And they said, "Sorry, Dad, we don't want to do that. We're going to remain celibate and brahmacharis our whole life." So there was a problem for Lord Brahma, that he had to, work around and overcome and figure out something else. And at the same time, he was grateful for their contribution, what they contributed to the universe in the form of disseminating transcendental knowledge. It was a valid contribution and very much necessary. So much variety. think I was going to say something else, but I can't remember. Yes, go ahead. Thank you. You're right. Thanks for being a good mind reader. Yes. So then when they used Vasuki as the churning rod, the Lord had pre-warned the demigods. Don't get ruffled by the protests by the demons. Just accept what they say and be fixed in the goal. Don't get distracted by all the distractions that'll come. So, first problem was the demons were not satisfied that they had to hold the tail. Ew, the tail of the snake. They were important. They were very elevated personalities. They were very strong, very this, very that. They wanted to hold the head because the head is more auspicious, right? Right, it is. Except that Vasuki's head had a little extra fire in it. It came out of his mouth. So then so the demigods who were holding the head, they said, the demons took the head, and as they're churning and pulling, stretching the poor guy to the max, and he's also wrapped around the mountain, stretching him on both ends, he's breathing really heavy, fire out of his mouth. So the demons ended up choosing the wrong end and getting scorched, and that defeated them. That diminished their strength a little bit. Anyway, interesting, isn't it? Well, a take-home lesson that I'm trying to learn is don't complain what happens. The Lord has a plan. You just smashed your car, there's something good that's going to come from it. You just broke your leg, there's something good that's going to come from it. So many difficulties in life, there's something good that's going to come from it if our consciousness is, I want to serve Krishna. I want to make progress in spiritual life. So there's a story that I've had just this last week, all my plans for travel plans got smashed to smithereens. And I'm supposed to be in India right now, but I'm not, obviously, just in case you didn't notice. Anyway, so there's a story that's come to mind that helped me calm down the hurricane in my mind of having all my plans smashed to smithereens. It was a story of the farmer. This farmer had some work horses. He had 2 work horses. He had 1 son, he had a wife and whatever, and he was doing the best he could in his simple little way. And one day, one of his horses, who did half the work on the farm, ran away. And all the neighbors came and said, "Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. I'm so sorry to hear that. What are you going to do?" He said, "We'll see. We'll just see how it comes out." Right? He wasn't flustered. And then a few days later, maybe even a week later, the horse comes back. And not only that, but he brings some wild horses back with him. So then the man's horses increase. So he can do more things. And all the neighbors came and said, "That's really good." He said, "We'll see." And then a few days later, the son thought, "Well, let me try to tame these horses so that they can also do some work too." And so as he's taming the horses and trying to ride them, one of them threw him off and he broke his leg. "Oh no, that's so terrible. Your son, who does so much work on the farm." He said, "Oh, that's so bad." He said, "We'll see." And then a few days after that, or maybe even a week after that, while the son was still recuperating with his broken leg, a war broke out in the area. And all the young boys were drafted into the army, except for the guy with the broken leg. And the man said, and all the people came and said, "That is so wonderful. Look how you've been protected." He said, "We'll see." In other words, the Lord has a plan, and if we just stick to our plan of trying to serve him in some way, everything will work out. That was a little extra, but it's been on my mind, so I had to repeat it. Okay, we better move on, huh? 17, 12th incarnation. Would you like to read it? Yes.
In the 12th incarnation, the Lord appeared as
Dhanvantari.
Dhanvantari, And in the 13th, he allured the atheists by the charming beauty of a woman and gave nectar to the demigods to drink.
Well, this is definitely just hinting at the Lord's incarnations. So it's referring to Dhanvantari, who he actually came out of that ocean, that churning ocean. Lots of different things were produced from that churning ocean, including Airavata. You remember who Airavata is? Indra's elephant. He was produced out of the ocean of milk. The goddess of fortune. Yeah. Anyway, many things came out. Dhanvantari, at the end, Dhanvantari comes out with the nectar that the demigods and the demons are waiting for, the nectar of immortality. And so he comes out, he's carrying it. And then there's another skirmish because the demons snatched the nectar from his hands. And then now the next incarnation is referred to here. This beautiful woman is Mohini Murti, the Lord in the form of a woman. Very captivatingly beautiful. She captivated the minds of all the demons and said, look, I'll just distribute it to everybody. You give it to me and I'll just distribute it to everybody. And they were just totally enthralled by her beauty. And gladly turned over the nectar to her, and she distributed it to the demigods and not the demons, except for a couple of demons who got half of the sip. But I won't tell you that story right now. Rahu, and what was the other one that got us? Ketu. Yeah, Ketu and Rahu, right? Yeah. Long stories, but really interesting. We're moving on. 19. Oh no, we got 18. Someone like to read 18? Bruce? Yes, Bruce gets to read it.
In the 14th incarnation, the Lord appeared as Nrsimha and bifurcated the strong body of the atheist Hiranyakashipu with his nails, just as a carpenter pierced his cane.
You want to give us a summary of that pastime? It can be very summarized. It's okay.
Hiranyakashipu had a son named Prahlad Maharaj, and his son was not atheist. He was very much a devotee of the Lord, and Hiranyakashipu could not stand it. So he tried to have him killed in so many different ways. And then Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad Maharaj, what did he ask him? Where do you get your power from? And he said to Hiranyakashipu, he said, the same place you get your power from.
A brilliant answer, isn't it? Wasn't that a brilliant answer? Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Where do you get your power from? The same place you do. Oh, yeah?
I'm trying to remember the rest of it.
Where is he then? Where's your Lord?
He's everywhere.
Oh, yeah? Everywhere? Is he in this pillar?
Yes.
Oh, then I'll kill him. Boom. Good boy. Great. So there. Now we know the story, and you know the story. But now remove yourself from already knowing the story, and just think of how amazing that whole pastime is, right? How amazing that pastime is. The Lord comes, he's born, you could say, born from this pillar. He comes out of this pillar. And then what does he do? What was it described how he killed him? But yeah, he split him in two with his nails. Yeah, bifurcated. Split him open. And then what? Then what's not mentioned is what else did he do in his operation on Hiranyakashipu? Large and small. They all went around his neck. Around his neck. And he wore that. He was happy to wear that garland. It's like Krishna. He's amazing, isn't he? He's not a boring Lord. Yeah. And then here's another little piece of information. Not mentioned here. But okay. After he killed Hiranyakashipu, he was there in Hiranyakashipu's palace, right? And so he turned around and he saw Hiranyakashipu's throne, that demon had ruled and oppressed the universe from that throne. And he very happily sat on that throne of Hiranyakashipu because why? He did not see Hiranyakashipu as a demon. He saw him as his devoted servant, Jai and Vijay. I don't know which one he was. He was one of those. Jai and Vijay, one of the gatekeepers who took birth. He saw him as his devoted servant. He saw the devotional service and the love that he had in his previous birth. Oh, thank you. In his previous verse, he saw that, and that's what he focused on. He didn't focus on his demoniac activities and want to cast him into hell and burn forever for being such a demon. No, he rendered service. So one of the takeaways on all of these things is that Krishna is really rooting. He's rooting for us. He's giving us everything we need. He's giving us so much opportunity to hear and chant and remember him. He's giving opportunity to us to hear and serve him in so many significant and insignificant ways. And if we can just try to appreciate the opportunity that we have, especially now at this time of your life, and especially in this atmosphere, when you're living in an atmosphere of people who are what? Focused on serving Krishna in so many ways. It's a rare opportunity. If you look at the span of your life, the 20 years it took you to get here or more, and the few years you might be in this ashram type situation, and then the rest of the years when you'll be struggling to maintain yourself and your family in Krishna consciousness, but in a more wider, broader situation. This is a great opportunity, bottom line. This is a great opportunity. Try to take advantage the most you can. And then we have another opportunity coming up. Even in a few days when Kartik starts, we have another opportunity that the value of our service increases during this Kartik time. Hare Krishna Jai Shri Shri Gauri Nitai. That the value, the benefit that we get from doing service from today to the start of Kartik, where you might be chanting your rounds and you'll be chanting your rounds. You'll be taking prasadam and you'll be taking prasadam. You'll be sweeping the floor or distributing prasadam or whatever your services are. You'll be doing the same thing, but the value of the purification during Kartik has gone up because why? Krishna again is looking, how can I give them more benefit? How can I help them make progress? So try to grasp that theory. And then when someone asks you to do something that you're not particularly inclined to do, try to disregard that static in the mind and focus on the benefit of doing that service, especially during Kartik, and take advantage of it. Even the chanting of Hare Krishna, it's 1,000 times, or I can't remember, it might be 10,000 times increased, but it's much more beneficial during that time. So you could consider, if you wanted to, chanting one extra round during Kartik. If you wanted to. It gets addicting after a while, but try. Okay, so that was 14th incarnation. Thanks, Bruce. That was great. Okay, let's go to text number 19 for the 15th incarnation. Tulsi, you want to say that first, please? And thank you.
15th incarnation, the Lord assumed the form of a dwarf Brahmana, and visited the arena of sacrifice arranged by Maharaj Bali.
One sentence.
The Almighty God can bestow upon anyone the kingdom of the universe from a very small beginning. And similarly, he can take away the kingdom of the universe on the plea of begging a small piece of land.
There's a saying in devotional circumstances that if you want to, forgetting it. If you want to try to hold on to your possessions and things, Krishna with his 10 arms can take anything away from you very easily. And if Krishna with his 10 arms wants to give you something, how can you even hold it totally? So Krishna, he's unlimited. He's unlimited, and his glories are unlimited. So this dwarf Vamana, there's another little incident in the whole story of the Vamana incarnation, which I probably should. Anyway, we'll get there. We'll get to the end. So there's an incident. So Vamana Day, very, very briefly, Bali Maharaj was in charge of the university, was gaining all power, and he got control of all upper, middle, and lower planetary system, and he was a big demon, etc., etc. And Aditi, the mother of the demigods, prayed, and the Lord appeared as Vamana Dev, simple, sweet, small, unintrusive little brahmachari, and he goes to the sacrificial arena of Bali Maharaj, where he's performing sacrifices in order to stay in his position. He's doing work so that he can stay in his position, work, karma kanda things, offering sacrifices so that he will have the pious credentials to stay as the ruler of the three worlds. And sweet little innocent small little Vamana Dev comes in the arena, and immediately Bali Maharaj is attracted to him. He's so attractive. He's so beautiful. And not only Bali Maharaj, here's this side story. Not only Bali Maharaj is attracted, but Bali Maharaj's sister at the time is in the audience. Bali Maharaj's sister becomes attracted to him. And she, being a young girl, she might have been married, whatever, she thinks, oh, if I had a son, I'd love him to be like that. I'd love him to look like that, And then the incident goes, and that's all, she just has that little passing thought in her brain. But it's a devotional thought. Even innocently, it's devotional because he, who she's attracted to, happens to be the Supreme Lord. So then the incident, Vamana says, I just need 3 paces of land. Bali says, you should ask for more, Your 3 paces are only going to be like a yard, That's not a very big yard to have. Anyway, he said, no, if I'm not satisfied with what I have, then I'll never be satisfied. So Bali immediately wants to give everything to Vamana, right? Bali's spiritual master, or we could say so-called spiritual master, says, don't give it to him. I can see, and he was very advanced. Sukracharya was not a nobody. He was very advanced. He could see this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's come. He already knew he's come to take everything away from you. Don't give it to him. And Bali thinks, he says, well, if he's come to take everything away from me, and if he is Vishnu, then I should give it to him because I'm going to lose it anyway. Why don't I give it voluntarily? So anyway, the whole thing happened, blah, blah, blah. And, he takes everything away. And then he's wondering, because Vamana asked for 3 paces of land. And with 2 paces, he expanded himself. He just happened to change shapes and just happened to cover the whole lower planetary system with 1 step and the whole upper planetary system with another step. But he asked for 3 paces of land. He got everything. So where was he going to put his head? The third step, I just blew it, on his head. Anyway, so when that happened, and then because Bali was considered untruthful, because he didn't give him the 3 paces of land, the Lord had Bali wrapped up by, I think it was Vasuki again too. Yeah, he goes everywhere. Vasuki, and at that time, Bali's sister, okay, who thought, if I had a son, I would love my son to be like that. That time, when her brother was being degraded and humiliated in front of everybody, she thought, if I had a son like that, I'd kill him. Do you know what happened to her? She came, you're right. Go ahead, tell us. She came in the next incarnation of Krishna, she came as Putana, who was attracted to Krishna and repulsed by Krishna at the same time. And Krishna, when he sucked out her life, he was remembering her favorable attitude in the previous, obviously from Vamana to Krishna, there is a gap of time. He was remembering that. and he gave her the position of a mother. He fulfilled her desire, her devotional desire. He fulfilled it. Got to move on. But isn't it interesting? The stories are so interesting. We're on 15th, 16th incarnation. It's text number. Oh, is this our last text? 20? 19. Oh, see, Krishna's a perfect controller. Okay, so let's hear some takeaways, some thoughts, or if you have a question specifically. Takeaways. Someone? Oh. Nitai, Hari Rama.
Farmer's story that you shared.
The farmer story. Okay.
Yeah. Seemed like I was just wondering how we could apply that in our life when things are changing. But this farmer didn't seem to feel anything. Anytime something would happen, he would always be like, "We'll see," just maybe looking forward to the next thing. So do we directly apply that, or when things happen, we can also feel those emotions while at the same time thinking that God has a plan?
I think it's for ours in our neophyte stage, in different varieties of neophyte stages and different stages of, beginning stages of devotional service. Of course, we're going to feel disappointed when calamities happen or, whatever, more than disappointment. But at the same time, the pacifying knowledge, jnana dipena, the torchlight of knowledge needs to calm down perhaps the initial upheaval of emotions that come. But with that torchlight of knowledge, we won't be in darkness. We won't be in darkness thinking, I'm finished now because this happened, because my family, the house was destroyed. Or, you know what I mean? That Krishna, out of his kindness, I've heard so many different varieties of instances of how kind Krishna is. And sometimes, and this is another factor in this understanding that Krishna is in control. Sometimes what we're praying for, since we're sincerely praying to make progress in devotional service, and sometimes bad things happen. Why do bad things happen to good people? Well, they happen because Krishna sometimes, especially for someone who's engaged in devotional service, for someone, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, on the threshold of bhakti. So threshold is actually, you're not on the porch outside there, you're not quite in the temple room, you're just on that little borderline of the door, you're on the threshold coming into the house of bhakti. Anyone who's on the threshold of bhakti coming in is definitely protected by the Lord's internal potency. And all those personalities who stay on the outside of devotional service, not executing any devotional service, not any inclination, they're under the laws of nature. You do something good, you get an equal and opposite reaction. You do something bad, you get an equal and opposite reaction. That's karma. Yantra Rudrani Mayaya. They're on the machine of material nature. This will happen because they did this, because it might happen in a different sequence, but they did this, they're going to get that. For a devotee, it's not like that. The internal potency of the Lord is Srimati Radharani. So for anyone who comes to devotional service, even slightly, even just an inclination to devotional service, even thinking, maybe I could be a devotee someday, but not right now. Any thought like that puts them on the internal potency of devotional service. It's explained in Nectar of Devotion. And everything that we have karmically coming to us is now rearranged by the Lord. And we're given a custom fit to help us make progress in devotional service. So it doesn't mean that because we become devotees, our life is going to be, the path back to Godhead is going to be like a bed of roses, flower petals. No, there's going to be those little pricky thorns are there too, but they're not going to be as pricky as they would have been had we been outside of devotional service. They're going to be custom fit and wrapped around us for Krishna to show us He's the supreme controller, we're his servants, and everything is okay. So when I hear that story about the farmer, I'm seeing, I feel that he's understanding everything's under the control of the Lord, and we'll see what his plan is, and it will all ultimately be for the good. Other comments or questions before it's too late? Okay. Anyway, just so some of the takeaways, that there's so much variety in the Lord's creation, and his potency is so variegated, and he's always attractive in any form that he takes.